Hello, my friends. Seems like so long since my last live, but it was just actually 2 weeks ago. Time has flown by, and I've missed doing these lives. So I'm really happy to be with you today. I'm Romy Hill, and I'm the designer behind Designs by Romy. And today I'm going to be talking about my latest Lace Club design. It's my Lace Lovers 2023. And this is a shawl called Peony Garden. And it's an interesting construction. So it's shaped like a V. So I have lots to go over today. And I'm so excited to see you here. So here's how my Lace Club works, because I've gotten a couple of questions from people asking about it. So I have a shipment option and I keep it really small. So that's only about 50 people, just so I can pamper those 50 people and it's not overwhelming. So 50 people have the shipments, and that comes up around October to purchase. So if you would like to get in on the shipments for next year, that is going to come up in October, and if you join my newsletter, you'll be able to see when those signups are coming up. So, hi everybody. So nice to see you in the comments. I love this. So last year, like in my 2022 club, I tried something different and I did like just a purely exclusive thing where only those people who signed up for the shipments got the patterns. And it really wasn't as fun as having everybody have access to the patterns all at once, like I used to do for my Pins and Lace Club. So this year, I got lots of people saying, please make it accessible all year. So the pattern only option is available all year long. So that's the four patterns for the year. That's the three shipment patterns. And then at the end of each year, I do a mashup, and that includes bits and pieces from each one of the shawls that I've designed throughout the year. So, and I think for some, like including me, I think that's the favorite one of the year. I generally do that as a stole shape, so a rectangle, and I often do it in mohair. I think there's only a couple of years that I didn't do it in mohair, and I would never ship mohair. So because I know you love it or hate it. So I am an absolute mohair lover. So um, I love mohair. I wait all year to the end of the year so I can knit with my mohair, and you get to choose. So you don't have to do mohair, but you can if you want. So hi everybody. I'm just saying hello. And Judy, I'm so excited you figured it out and you can say hello. Yay! This is awesome. I love it that you're all here. Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, the patterns are available all year long as like a club ebook. And in the next year, so in 2024, they'll also be available as single patterns. So that's the story. So hopefully all of you will love knitting this. Anyway, so without further ado, I have my sample here. I didn't put it up on a mannequin because I'd be taking it down. So this is Peony Garden, and it's shaped like a V, and it has some interesting things. I'm going to go over this pretty thoroughly, the construction of it. So here is the back, and you can see it just looks like a triangular shawl in the back, except it has this circle motif in the middle. So that's the peony motif. And then up here, you can see that it separates and it's a V. So on both sides. So whereas a normal triangular shawl would have a point over here on the end, this actually looks like a stole when you're wearing it. And you have this point in back. So if I were to be wearing this, it could just look like I'm wearing a stole around my shoulders. So there's not much room here, but I'll stand up a little bit so you can see, like it just looks like I'm wearing a stole. Um, Otherwise, you can also wear it with the point more in front. So I know a lot of people like to wear their shawls this way. And then you can have that motif in front. I'll stand up a little bit like this. Okay, so let me get this off here. Alrighty, so let's talk a little bit about the construction. This, I think, is my fourth V-shaped shawl. So if you really like this construction, there are some others for you to try out as well. The first one I ever did like this was Madronia, and it's still available. So if you want to do that one, still out there. And I think I've refined this a little as we go along too. So hopefully those of you who've had problems in the past knitting, like wrapping your brains, and that I don't mean that as an insult at all. Like if I were just to read this in a pattern, I'd be like, what's she doing? So hopefully this will help those of you who are like, what on earth? So, okay. So this whole shawl starts in the middle of this round motif here in the peony blossom there. And it's worked out as a circle for the first few charts. And then it turns into a square. So you can see here at the bottom, um, there's a definite point. And so two sides of that square are bound off. So you can see like these along here. And then two sides are picked up and worked as the wings on the shawl. Okay, so I am going to change over here so I can kind of show you more up close what this is going to look like. And then I'll show you how to cast on, and we'll go over all the charts and everything, and I'm going to show you how to do all the stitches because there are a few different ones, and then there are some transitions in between the charts that I want you to watch out for. So here we go. Okay, so this gorgeous vibrant yarn was dyed by Twisted Ambitions yarn. And Ross doesn't generally, well, actually, he's never dyed lace weight before. So this is a super, super special order. And a few of you have asked if you can get this yarn. I'm afraid not. It's just a special order, but there are other dyers who dye this base. So if you really want to use this type of base, there are some other people who dye it. Okay, so it starts right here in the middle. And even though I often use what's called the belly button cast on, and those of you who have done shawls with a start like this before are used to seeing the belly button cast on, this one is started with Emily Ocker's circular cast on. And that is because it starts with 12 stitches in the center here. So that's a little bit much to do on a belly button. So I just did Emily Ocker, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So at the beginning here, it's just worked in the round. You can see this area here. I start out with smaller needles. There's a couple of reasons for that. So one of them is that it's just easier to get started on smaller needles, so they don't fall out as easily. So it's easier just to kind of get a little bit of a tight start in here. And that's going to help you transition outwards. So once that is done around in this area here, you're going to switch over to a larger size of needle. So at this point, we're just completely round. And then as it starts working out, you get to this point up here, and this is where it starts becoming square. So I have a little Estonian stitch here, and this sort of, because it pulls in here, so it pulls like into the center here, that makes this look rounder. So it looks like, when you look at it, it looks like a round motif and then leaves coming out of that. And that is because the stitches pull in here. So because the stitches pull in here, the base of this motif here gets widened out, and it kind of fools your eye into thinking that this is completely round. Like there's a barrier right here to where it goes from round to more square. So you can see there's a leaf motif here, and this is where all of the increases are when it becomes square. So before, in the center here, the increases were evenly distributed, and that made just a circle motif out of it. And then, as we're moving out, all of the increases now come in this spine right along here. So you have your leaves, and then works out to the side here. And once you get to this edge, you're just going to be binding off around two of the edges. So let's take a look at where this joins here. Okay. So right here is where the edge of the wing joins this last chart here, where you're binding off. So these stitches will have been on a spare needle while you're working the bind off chart for these two sides here. So once that's all bound off, you'll be picking up stitches alongside this little area here. So this is the chart here that you're working to bind off on those two bottom edges of the square. And then once it's bound off, you're going to come up here and pick up some stitches from the side of the chart there. And that side is going to turn into the garter stitch edging along your wings. So when you're looking at this, you can see here, it looks continuous. It's supposed to look continuous like this. So these here will continue into the line of the wings. And this is actually right across here is where you start the wing. So you can see that you wouldn't really be able to pick out the transition between the square and the wing. Okay, so let's take a look up at the top here. So this is what it looks like when you transition into the two wings. So down below on this part, that's the square. And then right here, you're going to start knitting a chart right up at the top here. And you're going to be increasing some stitches in the middle here, because this is just one center stitch. So that one center stitch needs to turn into 3 stitches on either side for the edging, and also an extra stitch that goes along the side here in the charts for the wings. So these continuous stitches here you'll just be picking up exactly where you were from your square. And then this part here, there's a little twist of stitches up here so it doesn't kind of like come apart and look sloppy. So then you'll be knitting each wing one at a time. So hi everybody who I haven't seen yet. Cal, hi, it's so nice to see you. So nice to see you, Yvonne and Julia, Julie, Claire, Barb, Judy, yay, Karen. Hi, Terry's. And Devora, I think I see you. Yay. So nice to see you all. Okay, so let's take a look a little farther down here. This again is working up to the top here where the wings sort of branch off. And I'm just going to show you how the wing comes out of the blossom motif. And then I will we'll take a look at all the charts and I'll show you how to cast on. So here is the blossom motif here. There is the round motif. And here are the sort of petal leaves that have the Estonian stitch down here. And those lead straight into this motif that is going to, it's like got a trellis and a leaf, and that is heading straight down the wing. So the sides are straight, but the bind off edges have small picots at the end. You don't have to put them in. And I was actually talking with someone today about those. You don't have to put these in. You can make this a straight edge as well. So, okay. Yeah, Terry, I am so geeky. I just completely geek out on this, and I am so happy to find other geeks who are also geeking out on this. Makes me very happy. Okay, so let's take a look here. Um, so this is a medium and a tall. For me, I'm only 5'5". The medium is good. For those of you who might be taller, you might want to do the tall size and increase the wings. So the only difference in the tall is that the wings are going to be longer. So in other words, you'll have a longer stole in front and you can wrap it more. So that's the difference there. Again, Twisted Ambitions only did the lace weight for me, but there are other people who do this same base, and Marionated Yarns for one, she does the same base and she does a gorgeous job of it. So it's definitely out there if you're looking for a replacement. Okay, so I know a couple of you were talking about having a more difficult time starting with the US 3 needles. So I'm gonna go over that, and yeah, my suggestion is just to go slower. That's what I always do. I just go slower. Okay, so right here, we're going to be starting with this center here. And as always, my patterns have this little synopsis here. And then when you see a chart called out, you can use either the chart or the written instructions. So all of my written instructions are going to are going to be right beside each chart. So you can use either one of those. And I just noticed that I'm not getting any speech to text for some weird reason, but hopefully this will be better. Sorry about that. I should have I should have paid more attention. Sometimes it just goes away for like the way that I arrange my windows on the computer, sometimes it just doesn't show up and then I don't notice. And so, anyway, sorry about that. Um, YouTube will actually add closed captioning later on. So, hopefully, there's no one who's hard of hearing who is listening to the live, and you'll be able to see this later on when YouTube adds the closed captioning. Okay, so I again suggested Emily Ocker's cast on. So at first, the motif in each chart is worked 12 times. Let's see. I had a question, when will it be available as a single purchase? In 2024. So the first part of 2024, like February. Okay, so once you're done with chart A, you're going to switch to, so Yvonne says, oh, I'm so glad. I wasn't sure. Yvonne says she sees the closed captioning too. That is really a relief because, oh, thank heavens. Yay. And Claire, oh, that makes me so happy. Okay. Since, since you all can see that, I probably will leave this captioning off next time. So someone had said that they were hard of hearing before and wanted me to use it. So, okay, but it is actually going away October 31st. So the service that I use is going away anyway. So it makes me really happy. It's been replaced. Yay. Okay, so back to this. I do want to say that between each of these first few charts, so we have after chart A, you're going to remove the end of round marker and you have to work a few stitches before replacing it again. The same thing happens after chart B and after chart C, and I will show you in the charts why that's happening. Then we get to charts D and E, and that's the end of working in the round. At that point, you're going to break your yarn and then slip stitches and reattach the yarn. And we'll talk about that a little bit when I show you the charts. And then there's a transition. So this explains what is happening with chart F here. And you definitely want to refer back to this page and take a look at what is happening here in between charts. So I know some of you like to just print the charts, but it's really worth it to print this page and check back here. So chart G and chart G is going to continue, and you're going to, this is going to transition over into the two wings, and then you're going to have these two wings here. So you have chart H and then chart I, and then you're going to bind off. So just checking over, okay. Yay. Okay. Alrighty. So let's take a look here. I do actually have this schematic that shows you pretty much what's happening. So in the center here, you're going to be working charts A through E, and then F right here is the bind off. You can see right in this little area here where there's a little dot, that is where chart G begins. And you're going to be picking up some stitches right on this bind off edge here and on the other side as well. And this little area up here, that is chart G. And then you'll be working chart H and I, and then go back over here, and you'll be using those stitches again and working charts H and I again for the other wing. Okay, so let's take a look here at the charts. So these are worked in the round. So if you have never seen charts that are worked in the round, let's just take a little bit of a look here at that. So you can see this whole thing, this whole chart is worked 12 times. So these right here are no stitch symbols. That dark part is no stitch. And these charts are, the first 5 here are shaded, and then you can see the second 3 are white. That's just as a counting aid. So it's shaded in groups of 5, starting from the right and going left. And then question, is this a V shape? Yes, it's a V shape shawl. So this is the shape of it. It's starting right here in the center and working around. And then 2 sides are bound off and 2 sides continue to be worked out as the wings. Okay. So let's take a look here. If you're working a chart in the round, you can see over here, all of the numbers are on the right side. So that means that every time you work around, you are going to be starting on the right and going left. So instead of just like when you work back and forth, you start on the right and then you start on the left and you go back and forth in the round, you're always going to be working from right to left on the chart. So as you're going, it's best to cover the bottom here, the top, and look at the bottom. So you're just going to move up whatever type of chart keeper you want to use. I think Post-its are so handy. So I always keep a few on hand. And then you can also use our knit picks, and other people have chart keepers. So those are really handy. And then Knit Companion is a digital, basically a chart keeper where you can put notes in. And I always suggest that as well. So as you're working, you're going to move from right to left all the way up. And you can see here that the increases are built into the patterning. So that is what's making it round, because each of these motifs will be increasing for just for a circle. So once you have finished your chart A, you are going to remove the marker. So remember, I was talking about making sure that you check your sheet here. So you're going to remove the round marker, like where you have set your marker to remind you where the beginning of the round is, and work 2 knit stitches and 1 through the back loop, and then you're going to replace your marker. So at that point, you are going to start chart B. So the reason that I did that was I did not want all of these to fall on the end of round. So it's easier if you're working flat, and sometimes you just come up against these right in the patterning, but it looks kind of sloppy to me sometimes when these double decreases fall across the end of one round and the beginning of the other. So I elected just to work a few stitches in between so that it looked neater and it was easier to handle on the way. Okay. So after your chart B, you can see here we continue to increase stitches. And again, you're going to, after chart B, you'll be knitting 3 and knit 1 through the back loop. So again, once you're finished with that last round, you're going to be removing the round marker. And then we're going to start on chart C, and all of this still is with the motif. We're still working it 12 times. So still 12 times. And once chart C is done, one more time you'll be removing the round marker for the beginning and end of round, and then you'll knit 3 and knit 1 through the back loop. So I'm sorry, knit 4 and knit 1 through the back loop. I was reading up there, but I meant to be reading down here. And then on to chart D. Chart D is where this starts turning into square shaping. Okay, so let's take a look at chart D. My pages are sticking together. Okay. Chart D, because we are going from 12 motifs that are exactly the same to a leaf motif here, and then this little Estonian motif over here, chart D looks a lot different from the rest of the other charts. So we are now separated into 4. So you can see here that this whole thing is worked 4 times for the 4 sides of the square. And this right here is going to be end up being your spine. So again, I did not want to change the round in the middle here and have these double decreases go across the end of the round and the beginning of the next round. I thought that that was a little messier and a little bit more difficult. So right down here, that's the spine, and you're actually not going to be knitting this. So how am I going to say this? So from here, here's the spine right here. And then this part over to the right of my finger would be on the other side, and that would make up one edge of your square. So within this, you can see that you're working this motif 2 times. So this is a repeat within a repeat. So this whole chart is worked 4 times across. Every time you work this whole thing, you're going to work this red box here 2 times within this side. Okay, so once this is done, and again, here, let's talk a little bit about these no stitch symbols here. When you come to a no stitch symbol, there is literally no stitch there at all. So there is nothing there, and the only reason these are used is so that the patterning stacks up properly. So for instance, you can see right here that this is the spine. So if there weren't these no stitch symbols in here, all the stitches would be kind of garbled up together and tumbled together. It'd be very difficult to see the motifs growing. So there are sometimes no stitch markers within the rounds. And you can see up here that will be shaded in again, so you'll get your stitches back. Okay, so once D is finished, we go on to chart E, and you can see up here quite a bit happens in this area to grow that spine and make all of the increases right along that spine. So you can see all of these centered double increases along here, and that is growing your spine. And then over here, right up here in this area, this is where the motif of the wings begins, right in this area up here. And then that is going to be carried down on two sides, and of course the other two bound off. And again, same thing as before, this whole thing is worked 4 times, and within here, this area is worked 2 times. So this is the spine right along here. Hi, Marianne. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's go on over here. Okay, so chart F is the first chart that's worked flat. So the ones before this were all worked in the round, and you can see here it's worked flat. The others will tell you that they're worked in the round. So this is a little bit cut off. I should have shrunk it when I printed it, but there are actually numbers on the right and numbers on the left. They're more like this. You can see down at the bottom here. So you can see here that it's changed now. There are numbers on both sides. So when you see these numbers on both sides, you know that you're going to be working flat. So you're going to go from 1 is from the right to the left, and 2 is from the left to the right. So this one up here is a continuation for 2 of those sides of the square. And before you work chart F, so you're going to see here after when you finished your chart E, that was the last one in the round. This is where you're going to remove the round marker and slip 25 stitches. So that is going to get you right at the spine now. So now you're going to be working 2 sides from spine to spine. Okay, so let me see. Alrighty, so Marianne, I see your question. I'll talk about yarns a little bit later, and I'll go through everything. So, alrighty, so that is going to start chart F up here. So on the last round or row of chart F, you're going to be binding off as you're working these stitches along here, and you can see this is the spine in the middle. We're still increasing the spine here, and I will show you all these stitches. Okay, so this one is in what I call the what you see is what you knit version. So whatever you're looking at here, you are going to see exactly the symbol that you're knitting or working. So in other words, this is actually in garter stitch, but instead you're seeing the symbol as you work it. Okay, and then at the back, this is a what you see is what you get. This is a representation of what you see, the texture that you see on the front side of your work. So you can see this is all in garter stitch. Okay, So one thing I want to call your attention to over here, this row starts with a yarn over. So you're going to be attaching your yarn here. So there are a few ways to do that. You can attach your yarn and then make a yarn over, or a couple of my test knitters made a slip knot and just anchored the yarn to their needle that way, and then um, took the slip knot off the needle to like later on because they didn't want any knots in there. So either one of those will work, but just if you attach your yarn in some way before you work this yarn over, you will have much better results. It will be much easier for you. And then over here, because you cannot really have a yarn over at the end of a row, there's no yarn over here, and the second row starts with a yarn over. So let's see. So Judy asked, instead of breaking yarn, what about leaving a loop? I actually did that because I like to make sure that I like how everything looks before I cut it. So absolutely, you could do that. Just make sure that when you leave a loop, make sure to leave enough yarn so that you can you can sew both ends in because you don't want that loop on the back of your shawl to stay there. So, okay, so that's chart F. That is the bottom part of the square. So chart G here is the top part. So this is the two top pieces here of that of the V in the square. So you can see here it's growing in the middle, and that is to give some extra stitches to go into the wings up top there. So you can see here um, it's a center double increase, and then these are knit back and front, and I will show you how those look. Okay, so that's really the end of the I don't know, I wouldn't say hard part, but the more complicated part, we'll put it that way. That's the end of the more complicated part. So after that is done, we have enough stitches now for both wings. And this chart H is worked flat. So you are going to be working 6 of these motifs across on both of the wings. So this is maybe a little bit different from what I usually do. I don't usually do this where I have the double decrease with a make one beside it, but I really liked the way that it echoes this double decrease in the motif. So I did that a little bit differently this time. And you can see up here continues. You're going to work this area in the middle here 7 times for the medium and 11 times for the tall. So this chart here has only the right side rows. So for all of the wrong side rows, you're going to knit one through the back loop 3 times, purl to 3 stitches before the end, and knit one through the back loop 3 times. So that's on every single wrong side row for chart H. So for chart I, again, this is worked flat, and this is what you see is what you knit version. So this is very, 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 very similar to the 2 sides that were bound off before. So once you get here, it's the same thing. So if you have bound off those other 2 sides, you will totally be fine with this. And again, on this last page here, these are all the alternate what you see is what you get charts. Those are a more common charting method where you see the front side of your work and the texture. So if you are used to that, you can use these charts instead. Okay, so let's go through this. Okay, so Marianne was asking about yarns that could be used. So this is a lace weight yarn here. It's a Blueface Leicester and silk blend. So there are quite a few different dyers who actually dyed the same exact blend. And then this will work well with any type of lace weight yarn at all. If you're going to use something like a stretchy merino, you'll probably need um, extra yardage because you won't get as big a result. So this, I think this would look gorgeous in 100% silk, linen. So anything with a lot of drape, I think is going to look prettier. So. So Barb asked approximately how far into pattern can you switch to circular needles? Um, Let me see. I mean, always when you feel comfortable, but I will tell you, I switched to circular needles, I think halfway through chart C. So it was a short circular needle. So like really wherever you feel comfortable. Everybody feels a little bit different. We all have a slightly different knitting style. And then, so Marianne asked linen mulberry silk. Absolutely. Those would be beautiful in this. That would work really, really well. So, yeah, just you want to you just want to get something that's kind of drapey and keeps a nice block, and you'll be good. So you could actually even knit it in a heavier yarn. The only thing would be if you do knit it in a heavier yarn, you definitely want to make sure that you have lots of yardage. Okay, so I am going to show you the cast on. This is Emily Ocker's circular cast on, and this is probably going to be easier for those of you who have crocheted before. So you want to leave a nice amount of tail, and I'm going to do this on a thicker yarn so you can actually see what I'm doing. So I have my tail down here to the right, and my yarn ball is over to the left, and the yarn ball end is coming over the top of the tail. So that's laid over the top of the tail. So I'm going to take my crochet hook and hold this loop. So I like to hold my tail in my right hand and the working yarn in my left hand to do this. So just reach in through the loop and get a stitch on your crochet hook and then pull another stitch through. So that's a chain one. That's your first stitch. So you're going to do 12 of these. So all the way across, you won't be able to tighten these first stitches up later on. So you want to make sure they're nice and snug at first, because this is actually crocheting, so it doesn't quite act the way that knitting does, even though it looks like knitting. So you're just going to do 12 of those. And this is going to start getting in your way. I just always pull that out a little bit. And after a while, you will get faster at doing this. I prefer this to other methods for thicker yarn. I don't usually use it for lace weight, except for under special circumstances like this, when I need to cast on a lot of stitches. So let's see. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So here's 10. Okay, 11 and 12. Alrighty. Okay, so here's what we have. So I don't like, I don't know if anybody does take these off the front of the hook, but I always slide them down and off the end. So that would mean that you need a hook that's something like this rather than like an ergonomic hook, like you might, like a clover hook like this one that's ergonomic. You wouldn't be able to slide them off the end in that particular case. So here are my 12 stitches there. And let's grab some nice thick double pointed needles because this is thick yarn. So gotta use the thick double pointed needles. Okay. So I am going to slide this down to the end here. And when you take a look here, you'll see that these stitches are mounted with the right leg in back and the left leg in front. So that means as you're repositioning, you're going to be coming from the, the back here. Okay, so I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. I'm just pulling on my tail, just tightening that up a bit. Just makes it a little easier to work with. Now I'm going to come in here and I am going to put 3 stitches on each of 4 needles. So here's my first one, and after that I'm just going to tighten that up. And I like to lay them on a surface when I'm doing this so they don't flip all around, and that may be helpful to you as well. And I'm just going to go all the way around, grabbing these. I'm slipping them purlwise from the back here. And as I'm putting them onto my needles, I'm tightening up using this tail here. And I am going to slip the rest of these. Oops. The nice thing about this cast on is even if you lose a stitch like I just did, it's super easy to get it back on there without losing a stitch. Okay, so now I am at the end here. So this is what it looks like so far. So at this point, I like to just take a moment and rearrange things and like take a moment to make sure that my needles are set up properly to work. Okay, so I like to work them. I like to have my end of each needle on top of the next needle around because that makes it easier to hold on to. So that's how I'm going to space those out so that now I can take my working yarn and I can start to work like this. So you can see right here, I do say to place a marker here. So I generally place some type of clip-on marker at first because it's so easy for them to fall off. So at the first point right here, this is how I'm going to mark my beginning of the round in order to get going on this. So now I'm all ready to start chart A, and I can just start working around. Okay, so let's see, questions. Yes, so Karen asked if this could be done with 2 circulars. Absolutely, for sure. I tend not to do it because for me and my knitting style, it stretches things out more than my double points. But everybody is different. So definitely go for the 2 circs. Okay, so let's put this aside, and I am going to just go through some of these stitches here. Um, so there are just a few that are a little out of the ordinary. So there's the 4SK, and that is a left-leaning stitch, and I want to make sure I show you how to do that. So most of these are fairly self-explanatory from here. In the SSK, so there are lots of different types of SSK, and I actually have a tiny tutorial for that I will add to this playlist. And let's see. Okay. So 4SK, it's a triple decrease. So you're going to slip as if to knit 4 times. And what you're doing there is reorienting your stitches. And you're just going to put all 4 back onto your left needle, and you can keep your right needle in there. And then just make that decrease. So here is your 4SK. It's a left-leaning multiple decrease. I'm just going to stick a yarn over in here, and I will show you a knit 4 together. That one is just like a knit 2 together, but it's just with 4 stitches instead. So that is what we have. Those are mirrored. Okay, so the next interesting one is the 7 from 3 stitches here, and that is a very cool Estonian stitch. So you're going to take 3 stitches and insert your needle as though you want to knit 3 together. Then you're going to knit 1, yarn over, and you're going to keep knitting 1 and yarn overing until you get to 7 stitches. So that's 4, 5, 6, and then back in for 7. So now that you have those 7 stitches here, you can take the 3 off of your needle. And this is what it looks like when you do it. So that is your 7 out of 3 stitches. Okay, so let's take a look at the CDI. That's the centered double increase. So you're going to use 1 stitch. The first stitch into that 1 stitch is a knit through the back loop, and then a yarn over, and then you're going to knit through the front loop. And this is what it looks like right here. So you can see it's very centered because that stitch looks twisted at the bottom. So it comes out looking more centered than it might otherwise with a double increase like that. Okay, and now we are at the knit front and back and then knit back front. So for a knit front and back, you're going to knit into the front and then into the back loop of a stitch. And this is what it looks like. You can see that there's a little purl bump here. So I like to do a knit back front stitch because then you don't see a purl bump. So for that one, you're going to knit into the back loop first and then into the front loop. So you can see here, there is no purl bump. So that's just going to look like you're not going to be able to see that as well in your fabric. So that hides it a little bit. So they're both used. Okay, let me take a look at any questions. Okay. Alrighty. So that's those two. Let's take a look at the center double decrease. So for that, you are going to slip 2 stitches together as if to knit 2 together. That's going to help you put this center stitch on top. And then you're going to knit 1 and pass those 2 stitches over. So you can see it puts your center stitch on top. Okay, and one more, let's just do the SK2P. Slip a stitch as if to knit, knit 2 together, and then pass your slip stitch over. And you can see that that has the rightmost stitch on top. Okay, so here is a pick up and knit through the back loop. So let me get around to the side here and show you what I mean by that. So if I were to be picking something up on the side, I like to use my needle to help me out here. So I've picked up that loop. So this is the pick up part of pick up and knit. I've picked it up and now I'm going to knit it through the back loop. So that's pick up and knit through the back loop. So again, that is pick up and knit through the back loop. And that just twists the little loop here so it looks neater and tidier. Okay, let's see. Make sure everything is okay. So this one I will go over when we're binding off. And let's just do the T2L. So that is just going to be on the wrong side, and that's right up at the top here. That is where you are going to use it. So let's go back around onto the back here. Okay, so this is the T2L. So you're going to reach behind the first stitch on the left needle and knit that stitch, that second stitch right here through the back loop without taking any of the stitches off your needle. And then you are going to knit the first stitch. So right now you have both stitches on your left needle, both of the origin stitches on your left needle, and on your right needle, both of the stitches that you worked. And now you can take both of them off, and you can see here you have a little twist that goes to the left. So let me see if I have any other questions. Okay, so everything's looking good. I will go into more depth. This isn't going to be the last live, so I'll go into a little bit more depth on the bind off and some other things later on. But hopefully that's good to get you started. And I don't want to keep you forever. So, do you have any other questions or anything before we end for the day? And I'm just going to talk a little bit. Here, I'll show you some more eye candy. So here you go. I took some pictures of what this looks like before it's blocked because it's like such a shriveled mess. So I am actually going to put those up on on the Ravelry project page, and probably I'll put them up in my Facebook group so you can take a look at how awful it looks before it's blocked, because you're going to need to see this because it's so shriveled. It's like this little teeny tiny shriveled shawl. You can't imagine that it will ever get big enough to wear. This particularly, I don't know why this one is so particularly like this. So, but I will put them up, and I also have a blocking picture that I can share with you. And so hopefully, I've gotten kind of more of an idea to you of how this is put together, and hopefully it's making more sense now. Let me see. Marianne asked, what is the size difference between the two sizes? So the wings are a different size, but the depth of the square in the back is the same. So um, you can see like all of the information on this first page right up at the top here. It shows the measurements. So when I measured this one, I took the measurement between one tip of one side of the wing and one tip of the other side of the wing. So this whole top measurement here for the medium is 64 inches, and then for the tall is 92 inches across. So like I was saying before, if you have this one on, like, uh, I'm 5'5", so if you take a look at this, it, I don't really have much room to stand up here, but you can kind of see, like, there's enough for a nice shawl. Like I can kind of flounce a little bit with it and put it over my shoulder. But if you want to really flounce, then tall, do the tall size, because then you have longer wings and you can really flounce it and like, you know, throw it over your shoulder. So let me see. I don't see any other questions. Okay, so hopefully that's good to get you started. And in a few weeks, thank you, Marianne, you are a sweetheart. I will do another live. So I know that people have lots of stuff to do, so I'm not going to do a live every week. Um, but I do want to talk to you a little bit about the transition between just the square part and the wings. So I will definitely be back with another live, so watch for that. And I will also have some Zooms. So, like, watch out for that. Subscribe to my newsletter. If you are not getting my newsletter and you think you are subscribed, it's possible that your ISP marked my newsletter as spam. So when that happens, it comes through as a complaint. And then I always delete any of the emails that had complaints on them. So if you're not getting them, it's possible that that's the problem. So just try resubscribing, and we'll go from there. And yeah, so let's see. Okay, so I think I got everything. But if not, I will be around. If you want to see anything, just let me know. And I will be kind of hanging out on Facebook and Ravelry, and I'm on Instagram too. So just hit me up, and I will make a little video or something and get you back on your way. So thank you. Um, okay, I just wanted to make sure I got everything. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely rest of your day and have a great weekend. And I will see you soon. Bye bye.